Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Holy Information, Part 2. So, I've been gone for a few days and Luke dropped, so I had a lot of catching up to do. So, I thought it'd be handy to kind of make a video of a state of Luke slash table of contents of all the stuff that I went through in case anyone's in the same boat as me trying to catch up because there's a lot going on. So have a cup of coffee and sit down and let's chit chat about Luke for a little bit. So what I want to do is just blow through his kit, like blow through. I know we're all sick about hearing about his kit, but just making sure we're all on the same page. His kit, the Zetas, the mods, how he's being used in the Rancor, in the tank, in the arena, in Galactic War, all of that. And basically what I'll be doing is I'll be mentioning the videos that I found. I'm sure there's a lot more than what I found. I only had a few hours yesterday, and if I missed anything that you think is cool, make sure to drop me a comment. But I'll be kind of just talking about what they talk about, and what I want you guys to do is I'll put all the links in the description box, and make sure to go check those out of the things that piqued your interest so you can get more information and get those posts, all of the hits and the feedback that they deserve. So this is kind of like a table of contents of all of the content that I found, walking you through how I caught up yesterday. So, Luke's kit. Basically, his kit is debuffs. He does a ton of debuffs. Oh, I have Thrawn open. Why do I have Thrawn open? There he is. So, basically, his basic is doing debuffs and removing turn meter. His first special removes even more turn meter. It removes 100% turn meter, and it does more debuffs. His second special gives himself 100% turn meter, so he can immediately go again, and it heals him a ton, so it gives him 40% health and 40% protection, which is a ton, and that's just with an Omega, that's not a Zeta. And then it gives him the call to action buff, which lets him ignore taunts and gives him lots of cool little stats, and that can't be dispelled or prevented. His leadership and his two uniques have Zetas. His leadership gives Rebels counter, which is a little bit terrifying when you first hear about it, because Rebels hit quite hard. And then also whenever an enemy resists, this is the Zeta, whenever an enemy resists a debuff, Rebel allies gain turn meter. That's the Zeta. The first unique basically is just giving Luke more stats, and then the Zeta gives him even more stats. So, it's just kind of adding on to his stats, I think, is the way to think about it. The second one is giving him potency, which is very nice because, like I said, his kit is heavily dependent on debuffs, so having that additional potency in there is very nice, so you don't have to mod as much with potency. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then it also gives him a little more health regen. The Zeta on this, it's whenever Luke inflicts a debuff, which he'll be doing all the time, all other allies gain turn meter. So that's just super quick blow through of his kit. Okay, so he has 3 Zetas. So there's lots of talk about whether they're worth it, which ones to do. So Nukin did a video ranking the 3 Zetas. Smithy D also did a video talking about the Zetas and comparing it to the OG Han, the Raid Han Zeta. And from those videos and the other things that I've been seeing, and from myself personally looking into it, I think that the consensus is kind of, it binds all things. That last unique where the Zeta is giving allies turn meter whenever Luke is doing a debuff, that's kind of the best one, because feeding all of your allies turn meter all the time is pretty good. It kind of has a feel almost to me like a Rex lead when they're getting crit, they're getting turn meter, kind of like a similar type of thing. That's a good one. The other two, they seem to me, like the leadership and the other unique, you can kind of use him and see if you feel like you need it. They're not like Finn or Maul where it completely changes the team. It's just, I feel like you could use him for a little while and see, like, if you get a feel for it, if you feel like you need to do it or not. The other thing to consider is there is also a lot of talk too about OG Han and R2. Their Zetas might still be worth it to do first, even if you are using them with Luke. So, like, I think Warrior ended up Zetaing OG Han first, not Luke. And then I will probably still be doing R2-D2's number crunch, and maybe even his other Zeta before any of Luke's. So it's not super clear, cut and dry, but there's a lot of talk being done on it. And then getting into mods, Nukin in that same video talks about how he would mod Luke for Arena. Basically, what I've been seeing with mods is mostly speed, crit chance, crit damage, and a little bit of potency as far as the sets go. And then with the secondaries, kind of like balancing offense with maybe a little bit of health and protection. Nukin talks about that in his video, creating kind of that balance, because it seems like Luke is a little bit squishy. Getting into I ended up actually using crit chance and crit damage because I mostly played with him autoing the Rancor, and you don't need as much speed if you aren't doing Arena, and if you're not soloing the Rancor. Which, speaking of that, so the Rancor. So Luke has the capability of soloing the Rancor. So just Luke by himself. Now, like I said, he needs to be fast. This is where speed mods really come in. So the video that I saw, it was Jonathan Nee, and it was a Gear 11 Luke. It took him 20 minutes. And Luke was 278 speed. So for me, if he's not on my Arena team, he's not getting those mods from me. But just keep that in mind if you want to try and do this. He did not do it on auto, but I think that was just because it was the first time he was doing it. From what I've seen, the AI on Luke is pretty good. I think it can handle him. It's not like Thrawn, where there were issues, at least in the beginning, with the AI, or Yoda, where it's just a little too complicated for the game to figure out how to use him on auto. But Luke seems pretty straightforward for the game on auto, so I think that would be fine. Most of the solos that I've been seeing that are on auto, they take between 10 and 20 minutes, so that's really cool. There is some videos of Luke and Thrawn, both, of course, very fast, doing it by themselves. There's lots of different teams that you can do, and they're all being soloed on auto and very quickly, and this is very cool. And I think it's cool that Luke is the one to introduce this. But some of the teams that I've been seeing I did a lot playing around with this yesterday, and the team that I felt was the most stable, and I have some footage of this that hopefully I'll get out soon, was a Wedge lead. Basically, Wedge, Luke, and Jin together seems like the best core for doing this. Then the other two, just kind of whatever you had. I did Biggs and Rex. Some people did Biston, Farm Boy Luke, OG Han, Old Ben, kind of whatever you have. But for me, that ended up being the best team. I've also seen people doing it. Someone in my guild earlier today did Ace Auto solo with a Tebow lead with Luke on the team. And you could probably even do it without Tebow in the lead if you have R2 just to keep him stealth. But again, it was an auto on solo, or a solo on auto, which is really cool. And then I haven't seen anyone do this yet, but I did it and I recorded it, and hopefully I can get it out later today. I did a Zetas run with Luke on it. I did Zetas, TIE Fighter Pilot, Tarkin, Jin, and Luke. And I did it on auto. I barely did it. I did it, but just barely. It was like Jin died in P4. There was like 10% left, and Vader did a saber throw. But my Zetas team isn't that good. And my Luke isn't even done. He's Gear 9. Half of his abilities aren't done because I ran out of purple mats. And I just threw crap mods on him. So I'm sure if someone has a more solid Zetas team, it'll be better. But I still felt like I did the Wedge runs and the Zetas runs a few times. I felt like the Wedge runs were a little more just smoother and more solid. So there's a lot of teams being used with this, so there's a lot of options, and all of them are being done on auto pretty quickly. So that's very cool. Going into the tank, I haven't really seen anything with P2 or P4 because Luke's specialty is removing turn meter, and that doesn't work on the tank. So I don't think that we'll be seeing much with P2 and P4, but with P1 and P3, so P1, there's kind of two approaches that I've been seeing. The first one is Wildgrump did a video, and it's basically like a Kylo Ren style approach where you're retreating. the reason that this works with Luke is because he's regenerating a lot of health and protection. So if you don't have Xylo or Zeta Sauvage, this is, if you want to do this approach, if your guild allows you to retreat and go back in a lot of times, you could do this. The other approach is McMull did a video about just taking Luke by himself, throwing him at P1 and making the best run that you could possibly get out of him. So that's a really interesting video. He really breaks down the strategy, like what order to use the abilities and everything. And it seems like people are getting around, I think he said 2 million damage with just Luke. So that's an interesting thing to consider. And it's just Luke by himself. Going into P3, what's being done right now is people are using Luke to improve the Imperial Grand Maneuver. So the Imperial Grand Maneuver was a Thrawn lead with Shore, Tarkin, Palpatine, and Jyn, and so now Luke is replacing Jyn. So I saw a forum post by, I believe it was Darth Scott, that said that replacing Jyn with Luke made it go by 40 minutes faster, which is huge, and the enrage timer was way higher. So in the post, I think the enrage timer was at like 12 or something, and then he said when he had done it with Jyn, the enrage timer was like almost out. So I know a lot of people are going to be playing with this. I think Nukin is doing a video on it like as I speak. But just Luke is making this a lot easier. So he's not as groundbreaking in the tank as Thrawn was, but he's definitely making it a lot easier. But I think his shining moment is definitely the Rancor. But I think what's happening with this Luke is he's making the raids a little bit easier for us so that we can focus on territory battles, which I'm super happy about. Going into Arena, there's, like I said, Smithy D kind of called him a Swiss Army knife, so there's lots of different possibilities with him. Looking at his leadership, people have been playing around a lot with Fulcrum Ahsoka because her basic gives protection up, so her countering a lot can be very handy. A lot of people are playing with OG Han because he got his rework and his basic is very good. And with all of the countering from Luke's lead, he's a good toy to play with. There's also some discussion about whether to, if you have an existing team, whether to replace R2 with Luke. So the forum post kind of talked about Luke being used with R2, but I've been seeing a lot of people, and like the strongest team right now, I think Warrior calls it Team Titan, is, or not the strongest per se, but the most popular team is Rex lead with Thrawn, Kenobi, Nihilus, and R2. And what I've been seeing, and what ended up being the best squad for Mist, actually was to replace R2 with Luke. So something to consider. Sir Loki did a video. I mean, it's Sir Loki, so of course he's going to dominate, but wow. Basically, it was a Luke lead with Fulcrum, R2, First Order Stormtrooper, and Kenobi. And he fought in Arena a really good Zeta team, and this was on full auto. He wrecked. It's crazy. And then from the other side of the spectrum, I think it's really cool that we're getting this variety of footage. Cam posted footage of him losing on defense to Luke, so we can kind of see that Luke, like I said, the AI seems to be able to handle him pretty well. So he has footage of losing in Arena and Galactic War. And I actually have fought Luke once in Arena and once in Galactic War. The Arena, it was his leadership, and I was a little bit scared, but I just stealthed everyone with R2 so they couldn't counter, so that wasn't too bad. And then Galactic War, I ran into a Luke lead in Galactic War, and my resistance was very sad. I made a video of that yesterday, so if you want to see it, check it out. So Mist did one of his roster reviews, and I really like all of these channels, but I really like Mist's insight on when he does these roster reviews. And he talks about all of the different teams that he tried. So there's a lot of different options, like I've been saying. So Mist kind of talks about all of the different teams that he's been trying. And the team that he ended up on, like I said, was the Rexley with Nihilus, Luke, Kenobi, and Thrawn. But he noted that Luke kind of works well on lots of different types of teams. And it sounds like he didn't have as much success with his lead. maybe this will change. There's gonna be a lot of shifting, I think, happening in Arena soon, because it feels like the Luke lead is meant to contrast the it's early the Rex leads. So if they go away, is it useful? I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of shifting that might happen. And then Warrior did a video using the Luke lead, and I think, like I said, he had Zeta Han, not Luke, and he has some footage of him fighting that team that I mentioned, the Rex team and a Trickable Cleanse team, and he talks more about the strategy that he's using in the battle. So Mist was talking about the different teams that he was using, and Warrior talks about the strategy that he uses. And then in terms of other videos, Mobile Gamer released a top 10 character ranking video again for this past month, and he has Luke at the top, and he talks about Luke a lot, but he also talks about how it affects the rest of his list and how he thinks his list is going to be changing going into the next month. So that's a very cool perspective. And then there are also some good videos of people doing the event. So Arnold, I had already seen the event because I was on the Reality Skew Gamers live stream when they were doing it, and I did the event myself. But just yesterday I watched Arnold's video of the event, and it was very entertaining. His reactions are priceless. So that's definitely just a fun thing to watch. But yeah, so that's kind of my list of everything that I've found, and hopefully you feel a little more caught up. Definitely go and check out all of those links in the description. Check out all those posts. This is great content creators coming out and letting me catch up very quickly with all of their information. And like I said, if I forgot anything, drop me a comment, and keep an eye out for my Rancor footage with the Wedge lead and the Zeta lead. Hopefully I can get those soon. And I will see you all next time.